Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. My voice is back because the last time we were doing shows, I was still recovering. I'm feeling good. It is Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to everybody. Hope everybody is enjoying the day off. I'm going to do a little hashtag crack them to that real quick.
Bush apple.
Little bush apple, on a Labor Day. A kind of a gloomy Labor Day here, Juice. I don't know about you, but at least it is in the south suburbs of Chicago. But as everybody can hear,
not bad.
The duo here. Not bad. That's good. That's what we like to hear. The duo is back. I am Luce. I'm joined by the Juice Man himself, the Juice and Luce show on the air on this Monday. Buddy, before we get into the not so pleasantries of what Cubs baseball was this weekend, we're just calling a spade here. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Got to hang out with you on Saturday, which was nice.
Yeah.
At the other side of town, which was fun. I had fun in the box, put friends on. What else did I do? That was ridiculous. I laid on the couch. I had the full suite experience. Head over to On Tap Sportsnet and our Twitter page to see the shenanigans from Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. It's good to get all those guys together, celebrate our nice big win for the website. And yeah, it was good. It's good to see everybody. I know for a fact that a lot of us haven't gotten together since like COVID and all that because our schedules are busy and a lot of people were, stuck inside. I was one of them for a while. But it was good. It's good to see Swartzy. It was good to see, all the guys out there talk some baseball. We had a lot of fun, ragging on each other. And we were two Cub fans in a suite on the south side watching Dylan Cease go all the way to the final batter on a no-no, and then he gave up the hit. And I don't know if you noticed, Ron, the minute he gave up a hit, I jetted the hell out of that suite. So I may have been the first one out of any suite because before the ball even hit the ground, I think I was out the door right after I heard the crack of the bat and the groan, because it seemed like one loud groan was let out over on the south side there. But it was cool. It was cool to see that experience and hang out with the guys. And then the rest of the weekend was fun. It was busy. Barbecues. Went to Frankfurt Fest. Shout out to that, which is usually a good time. And played a little golf today on my way out and back to SB, which is cool and tough because there will be a playoff game in my backyard very soon. I think it's this week or next week. It might be next week. But whenever it is, I will be there cheering on those South Bend Cubs as they make the playoff run.
Hell yeah, man. I saw that, and it was immediately what I thought. I was like, we know Juice is going to be boots on the ground for the playoff games, and that's going to be awesome. At least, obviously we'll be without playoff baseball at the highest level in the organization, but quite a few of the minor league teams in the hunt for this postseason. So we will have quite a bit of MILB.
Not mistaken, action. I think it's all but Iowa. I think Iowa's the only one who didn't make the playoff. And they barely missed it. I think they were a couple games back of making it.
Yeah, I think Tennessee still needs like one more win or two more wins to clinch. Yeah, but they're there. Yeah, as long as they don't like totally screw anything up, they're in. Obviously, South Bend has claimed the number one seed, I believe. I think they won their side of the Midwest League. And then, I believe Myrtle Beach is amongst the top teams in that Carolina. Well, and they won the first half, if I remember correctly, the Carolina League.
Yes.
Which automatically gets you a bid into the postseason. So, hey, it's cool. That's a good sign. When the minor league teams are making the playoffs, it means there's talent there. And that's what we like to see. And obviously you get to see plenty of it being in South Bend. But Juice, I'm glad you said you golfed because I would expect nothing less if you weren't golfing on a holiday.
Had to, man. It had been like 3 weeks since I played.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since.
For context for everybody listening, for Juice, that's a long time.
Yeah, just for anybody who's listening to the show, I play probably 3-4 times a week. I try to get out twice on Saturday, and I try to play on Sunday, and I try to fit in a Thursday or Friday during the week. I try to play as many holes as I can during the weekend. But yeah, it was a long time in between being at the club. It was good to see everybody. And get out and use it. It's nice. The course is in great condition, and it's fall golf, baby. I love fall golf because you can wear pants.
Fall golf is amazing.
And your long sleeve, and if you got a nice, golf vest, you throw that on. but it's like the perfect temperature. You never have to worry about it being too hot. It's the perfect, like, have a cigar during the round temperature, which is nice because I have just so many in my humidor right now I got to get through. But that's what I was doing. I had a nice stick, and we played a skins match, and I broke even. So didn't lose any money, didn't win any money. But hey,
that's okay.
It was fun. Met some good people, and yeah, it was nice, and it was obviously a nice break from the ass beating that we watched over the course of the weekend that the Cubs took.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way that we can transition this, Juice. Obviously, yes, as you brought up, we had a good time on Saturday. We were on the South Side, celebrating a little good fortune here for On Tap. This is the first episode we're coming to you guys live officially after the migration. So if you head over to our website, ontapsportsnet.com, looks a little different than it has in the past. We are officially under the Arena Group Network and Sports Illustrated's media group, and we're there. We're doing things. So that was Saturday. Saturday was a good time. We had a lot of fun. And yeah, hell of a ball game to watch. I mean, even just all things considered, I mean, it hurt a little bit, I think, as Cubs fans with it being Dylan Cease. But either way, I mean, you always enjoy a good pitching performance, and he delivered on Saturday night for certain. So he knew On Tap was going to be in the building, Juice. He put his best foot forward because he knew the brand was in the building. Like, you got to at least respect that from the guy. And he's Cubs legend, Dylan Cease, right? Like, you know, the Sox fans all thank the Cubs for him every single day. So, you know, they know who identified him originally and got him into Major League Baseball as a prospect long ago. But Juice, you mentioned an ass whooping, and the Cubs did take an ass whooping at that this weekend. Friday, they lose 8-0, just an absolute, embarrassment for lack of a better word. Saturday, a little better. They had the lead for a little bit, and then the Cardinals just broke it open 8-4. We were watching that one together. Cubs were actually up 3-0 at one point. Things were looking up, and then things were not looking up very quickly. But then Sunday, at least Sunday's game was competitive. Marcus Stroman, absolute gem from him, 7 shutout innings, keeping the Cardinals off the board. But then that 6 son of a retiring bitch Pujols had to blow it open, and 2-0 was all it took for the win on Sunday. Obviously, we're coming to you live on an off day here for the Cubs, an off day for the entire organization, as minor league baseball usually doesn't play on Mondays. So very quiet baseball day. But, Juice, let's talk a little bit about the weekend. Initial thoughts on the ass whooping from the Cardinals.
Well, I want to sum it up in one way. It's 2 teams that are in completely opposite directions. You know, there's one team that's going for it. The Cardinals are absolutely a team that could win the NL and come out of that. They could. They're that damn good, and they have that voodoo magic. And it seems like this last run for Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols has kind of motivated the young guys to keep it going. They're playing great baseball. I hate them so much, but tip of the cap to what they're doing. It's impressive. They absolutely could, go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers probably end up coming out of the NL. If I'm a betting man, that's where my money is going to lie. But with that said, you watch them play, and it has that magical kind of Cardinal run to it, right? Like, they are so deep in that lineup, and they're getting what seems to be like prime age Pujols right now. I mean, he comes off the bench and hits a home run out of your lefty everyday Hughes, who has been maybe arguably the best Cubs bullpen arm in the second half here. Yeah. We can make that argument that he's been that damn good. None of these games worry me as I watch, but it's just frustrating to see like your fandom. And it's frustrating because you want to beat those rivals. But I think like this weekend did a great job of putting things into perspective for the average Cub fan. There is some ground that needs to be made up through the roster.
Agreed.
Just to even sniff the top of this division. And I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, the Cubs are going to have some money to spend. There's a lot of rumors circulating around about, Shohei Ohtani and all these different guys that they can go after this offseason. And I think the Cubs are in a great spot in the organization right now because the best assets to have are young, up-and-coming players and flexible cap space. I mean, let's face it, the Cubs are going to have a lot of money to be competitive with in the free agent market. And if they make the right choices, this rebuild, I think, gets moved up. I've been telling that to a lot of people for a while. I know we talked about it in the box, with a lot of our Southside friends on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to be optimistic about for the future. You just have to get through this last month of what is, let's be honest, Ron, pointless baseball. I mean, this is 100% pointless baseball for a lot of the guys on this roster. Now, there's a few guys that I would love to see build towards next year. Marcus Stroman is one of them, and that was so refreshing to see yesterday. Him go out there and pitch 7 and be the guy that can wiggle in and out. I mean, he didn't have the best stuff early on, but he kept the Cardinals off the board, gave his team a chance, and that's all you can ask from a starting pitcher. He did exactly what he needed to do, and you got beat by a magical run by a hitter that I cannot wait for him to get out of baseball. I mean, as a Cub fan, if you're not tired of this guy already, I don't know what to tell you. You are good and you're great in my book in terms of being patient. If you're not like, what the hell, I am tired of watching him kill us. And there's so many other names on that Cardinal roster that are going to be, thorns in our side for the future. Absolutely. Yeah. They know how to run a baseball franchise. They absolutely do. They churn talent. They figure out how to be towards the top of the league, even with these prospects that you don't even know who they are. You're like, they come up and they end up being, mainstays. You're like, how did this happen? This guy was middle of the road, and look what he's doing. And they find these guys.
Lars Nootbaar, the General Mills product, is a perfect example of that.
Absolutely. And I don't want Cub fans who have watched this whole season and kind of went through it to be discouraged of what we watched over the weekend, because it's just not, this won't be the roster next year. It won't be the roster when they're competitive again. But if you watched closely, there were some good performances over the weekend and things that they can build on going into the offseason.
Absolutely. And Juice, you probably hit on one of, in my opinion, the most encouraging aspect of the weekend, and that was the Marcus Stroman start on Sunday. Because, again, I've come on here and yelled and screamed at the clouds countless times about it this season, Juice, about these people. Oh, he wasn't worth the money, and oh, he's not a top of the line starter, and oh, he can't do this. When people didn't understand that pitchers are creatures of habit. Like if you're a fan and you have any little bit of superstition in you, you are also a creature of habit, whether you like it or not. And people, we talked about it all the time right here at Cubs on Tap, was these pitchers are going to struggle this year, especially early on. And what did we see? Exactly that from the Cubs. Now you're starting to see some of these guys that have settled in, right? We've talked about the growth of a Justin Steele, who hopefully we see in this Cincinnati series, and obviously we'll talk about that here in a little bit. You've seen the growth of a Keegan Thompson this season, going from a long bullpen guy to a starter. And now you're seeing Marcus Stroman be Marcus Stroman. 1.84 ERA on the road this year, Juice, and 12 road starts, with 7 of those being quality starts. Woo-hoo! That's dirty. Like that, like literally, to me, that screams like if the Cubs are in the postseason and Stroman's on the roster, that first away game, he's pitching.
Yeah,
that's what that tells me. He's pitching, he's going 7, and he's giving the Cubs a chance to win. And he did that exactly on Sunday. Like you said, 7 innings. Yeah, maybe early on he got hit around just a tad bit, gave up 4 hits, but no runs, not a single walk. So his control was good, which is good to see. And 5 strikeouts. And all the 5 of those strikeouts came his second time through the order, too, which is certainly encouraging. He really got that spin going on the slider. That looked really nice. And we heard him talk about it when he was on the broadcast during the Toronto game. He said, I don't normally throw 4-seam fastballs as my primary pitch. And he's like, I was throwing a lot of them early on in the season. And he's like, and I think that's what screwed me up. I just wasn't doing what I normally do that's successful. Now you see it. He's throwing more sinkers for strikes. He's got that wipeout slider that helps him, get outs. And we see it time and time again. Like his fastball's not bad, but it's a nice secondary offering when teams are looking for movement pitches from Stroman. You can start dotting that fastball in the corners and really get guys just looking stupid when they have to sit there and take it. So I'm really, really, really encouraged about what Stro did. Like, I'm not even kidding, Juice. you and I are so on the same page about this weekend, to the fact that, like, as I was pulling up his numbers to literally talk about it, you were just like, and we got to see Stroman succeed. And I'm like, God damn it, Juice is like inside my brain right now. I'm literally like in the process of pulling up numbers, and you knew, man. But no, I'm absolutely right there with you. Just really quick here in the comments, we have our friend. He's on shift and I couldn't join us, but it's our boy Tyler. He says, "What's up, boys?" I actually didn't say it a few episodes ago. I only assumed it, but I'm saying it tonight of September, whatever day it is. Albert Pujols is on PEDs. There, I said it. I declared it. The absolute declaration. And you know what, Juice? That, like you said it so just nicely and calmly. I'm going to say it like a brutal asshole. Cubs fans, we don't have to see the shitbag Cardinals the rest of the season. They're done. They're off the schedule. They're over. The only NL Central teams we see down the stretch here are Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and I would rather see those two than see. Well, I mean, the Brewers, Cubs beat them in the season series this year. Let's not forget that. But not seeing the Cardinals after going, I think it was 6-13 against them this season.
Not good.
Refreshing to not have to see them. You will never have to see Albert Pujols play against the Cubs ever again. You'll never have to see Yadier Molina play against the Cubs ever again. I can't believe we're not saying we don't have to see Wainwright pitch against the Cubs ever again, because for some reason he's just going to keep playing, even though he literally debuted in 2005. Yeah. But here we are, like, crazy, man. But hey, it's over. We don't have to worry about it anymore. The shitbag Cardinals are gone. Albert Pujols is on PEDs. We're calling it now. Tyler's screamed it from the rooftops. Like, it felt good just to get that off my chest, Juice. We don't have to see the Cardinals can't hurt us anymore, Juice. They just can't. At least not for this season. They can't hurt us anymore, and it's good for the soul to get that one out here on Labor Day, my friend.
I'll say this though. I'll go against your point. They could absolutely still hurt us, and it's if they make a long, deep run in the postseason, right? Because that's just it's so dirty for us to sit and watch this. If they use their cardinal voodoo magic and end up, getting a deep run and maybe, God forbid, they win the whole thing, it'll be insufferable. But yeah, no, I think you hit all the points that I wanted to pretty much talk about. And I think too, like, just to reiterate, I think if you're looking at the Cubs at where they're at right now, the best capital that they have on the MLB roster right now is the fact that they realistically have 3 very successful, maybe 4 if they're willing to bring back Drew Smyly, and he is what he's been, since I think it was before the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. But they have 4 plus guys in that rotation that have performed. I mean, Keegan prior to injury was awesome to watch. The growth was fantastic. Justin Steele, I mean, Joey wrote it up a couple weeks ago about him taking that step as the potential Cub ace for the future. Marcus Stroman, like you said, has been nothing short of spectacular in the second half of the season, and health is that too. He was unhealthy in the beginning of the year, probably pitching through some stuff and trying to figure out what was going to work this year and what wasn't. He's found a groove. Mm-hmm. And I'll always say this, when you're building a baseball team, you build a team with pitching. That's how you win, because no matter what, lineup woes will come and go, but pitching and defense will always be there. So the Cubs are on the right track. They could play better defense. I think they could run the bases better going into next year. Those are 2 things that I really hope they work on. Definitely down in spring training, David Ross get something going. I'm one of the extra side fields with these guys just being better at taking extra bases when they should. They run a lot, and they run into a lot of outs on the bases, which is so frustrating. And I'm all for being aggressive, but there's a calculated aggressive that I think that they need to hone in on and teach, while they're doing, some pitchers and catchers reporting and those guys who come early. That's the time to work on that stuff. That way you can use spring training to get, ready for the season. So there's a lot to be excited about. I'm excited for it, because I think that you could piece together a damn good rotation with those guys. Plus, maybe you spend a little bit of money. We're not even talking about Kyle Hendricks, who he seems to be the type of guy that would age decently going into, his not twilight years. He's still a young guy, but let's face it, he's kind of struggled as of late. So you don't know exactly what you're going to be getting out of him. But if there was any guy to bet on, it's going to be him. He is the most competitive. He's very smart. And I think that, he's doing what's best for him by shutting down his arm for the year and then just getting healthy and coming back next year as, one of the mainstays in this Cubs franchise that has been there for a while and knows how to win. So realistically, the Cubs are in a good spot when it comes to pitching. I think the lineup could definitely use some, diversity to it. We can add some more power guys. I think some of the moves they made, claiming guys like Franmil Reyes was a great move. He's been nothing short of amazing since he's come over. And they got some pieces they can play with, and there's some names out there that we're going to definitely dive into over the course of the offseason and talk in depth about, if this guy comes, what does your lineup look like? We're going to do tons of shows like that. But while there's still baseball on the field, you got to be just excited about the fact that it seems like anytime that Stroman or Smiley or Steele take the baseball, you're getting a quality start. And that just means so much to free agents who are looking to come here. If they know that there are guys on the mound who are going to give them a chance to win, they believe in what they're building. And then you look at, one of the costs that are the hardest to acquire, starting pitching. You see these contracts that come out, the annual value for them is so outrageous that you pay so much for an ace. Now imagine if you had homegrown aces like Steele, like Keegan Thompson, and then you sandwich that in with a very flexible contract that is Marcus Stroman. Man, that's when you start to kind of piece together having extra flexible income. And then there's tons of guys that are out there in the bullpen that are given good looks so far. I mean, we've seen some guys that have worked over the course of the second half. And I think that they have a good idea of what this team's going to look like. And it's not outlandish anymore to think that they're so far off that this rebuild is going to be something that bleeds into 3-4 years. I think maybe it bleeds closer to a year, maybe a year and a half, and pending how they play in the first half of next season. Who's to say that they aren't buyers at the deadline? They could absolutely be that. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be getting, Albert Pujols-like numbers from anybody they bring in next year, God forbid. And Yadier Molina has been a mainstay at the catcher spot, and that's tough to replace. Yeah. So the team that's winning the division has question marks. Everybody throughout this whole, rebuild or next year going in is going to have question marks going into it. And if the Cubs answer more of theirs, it's absolutely plausible to see that they could win next year.
Yeah, I completely agree, Juice, with everything you have to say. And just to add on to that too, right? You mentioned like Stroman and battling some injuries and really this whole pitching staff. Stroman even admitted, he was like, I had COVID, I came back from it. And he's like, I probably came back too quickly and wasn't myself. And that really took me some time to kind of, get back to what he was doing. And then he got hurt again. So, I agree. I think just this year has been such a crazy microcosm of injuries, of guys taking longer to maybe get to where they normally are, what have you. So for the fact that they've been able to show some of those bright spots, like you said, and there's only more bright spots coming in the future, whether it's through the pipeline, whether it's potentially through free agency. Certainly they can make trades. I mean, not like that's off the table in the offseason. Like you said, we're going to break all that down, man. But again, I think well said at this point. This isn't a cause for concern series getting swept. We just see where the Cubs and Cardinals are at this point in the season. We know the Cardinals are probably going to win the division. We know the Cubs are probably going to finish in third as long as the Reds and Pirates don't get hot down the stretch here. And, that it is what it is, right? Like the Cubs are going to do what they are, and then they're going to go back to the drawing board when the offseason comes. So I'm right there with you, man. But I want to turn it quickly back over to you, my friend. Do you have any final thoughts for us moving into this Cincinnati series that begins tomorrow?
Yeah, I kind of watched the end of yesterday's game and watched Pujols go yard. And while I don't love the Cardinals, I absolutely hate them. I did appreciate his career. I mean, he was one of the best ever. And we make fun of Yadier Molina so much, but let's face it, man. Like there's not a lot of people who would sign up to play in that boring of a town for that long and enjoy it. I mean, more power to him for being down there as long as he did. And I know we always joke Yachty for Trout and all these different, Twitter back and forth that make Cardinal fans look like dopes, and they are for a lot of reasons. But I appreciated watching him play the position for so long because let's face it, man, he's a really good player. Hall of Famer, that's to be said. That's to be debated, I think, in a lot of ways. But with that said, man, like both of those guys, tip of the cap for being thorns in our side for so long. And I don't know, man. I hate to end like in my final thoughts be that positive for a Cardinal, but I think I'll have the same kind of feeling once Aaron Rodgers isn't killing us from Green Bay. It was a lot like Favre. When anybody brings up Favre now, I'm like, well, he was pretty good. He wasn't, the best, but I mean, he kicked the shit out of the Bears 9 times out of 10. And
right.
It's, the same for Rodgers. It's a tip of the cap for a career that is in a sport that is very difficult, both sides. I mean, we're talking, Rodgers and, I mean, more impressive too is the fact that Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols had the careers that they had, because baseball is a very difficult sport. Go out there and try to hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball and the curveball breaking stuff that some of these guys got now. It's to have the stats that they have behind them, especially Albert Pujols. I mean, that guy's like, the run he's on is unbelievable. And because they don't play the Cubs for the rest of it, I am absolutely rooting that he gets to 700 home runs. And I hope that it comes out at the end of it that he took so many steroids this last year. That way we can just have the last laugh on him. But I absolutely hope he does it because, hey, if you're going to give up your body for that, you might as well make it worth it.
Yeah, hey man, I'll tell you what, you're spot on though with that, and I won't elaborate too much, but I mean, Pujols is one of the best to ever do it. I mean, you got to appreciate it's one of those things, Juice, and as I've aged, and this is across all sports, and I think the sport and the team in Chicago that really made me gain that appreciation now that I've gotten older is the Blackhawks, right? And like appreciating greatness, because for so long, like, oh, we had Sharp and we had Hossa and we had all these guys here in Chicago. Now they're all gone outside of Taves and Kane. And like now I'm like, I sit back and I'm like, there might be a day. There's some days where I'm like, I would, if I had to scratch my nuts across a mile of sandpaper to see Marian Hossa pot another goal in a Blackhawks uniform. You know what I mean? Like you miss Absolutely. The greatness once it's gone. And so, yes, he was never a Cub. Yes, he fucking punished the Cubs for years. But as you said, right, you can respect greatness and appreciate it for what it is in a very difficult sport nonetheless. And yeah, I mean, what he's done in this last season is insane. As Tyler said, maybe he is on PEDs. Who knows?
I hope he is, man.
Yeah, hey,
who knows? I hope it comes out and then he's just like, screw it. I don't care. I got 700 home runs. Much like Barry Bonds, where Barry Bonds just kind of says, screw it. I'm the home run king. I don't care what anybody says about me. Right, pretty much how he's been.
Yeah. So we'll certainly see what happens, but I think Scott sums it up perfectly here as well. He says, "Tip the cap, but fuck the Cardinals." So it's a good give and take. As always, here it comes on tap. Just another quick thought too, Juice, that I have while I'm thinking about it, so we don't get too far sidetracked here. Cody Hoyer, a little bit of news today. He's throwing. Albeit light toss, but he's throwing. So another guy that we talk, right? You talk bullpen arms, and you brought that up. Another guy, just kind of like don't forget about him, folks, because his 3.14 ERA is good. Don't get it twisted, but like at one point he was on like a 15-game appearance where he like had like a sub 3 ERA. Like he was incredible, and then he teetered off a little bit toward the end, and whether that was just teams figuring him out a little more or what have you, but. Certainly a guy that people have to keep in mind for next season. So just encouraging news, and you can read that over at ontapsports.com as well. I have another little bit of end of kind of that's more like housekeeping shit. Oh, and by the way, Juice, do you like the new background? I know you've seen this already.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And then you guys got it hung.
It's finally up on the wall, so as those can see that are watching live, sorry you have to stare at my stomach for a minute. That is a hand painting, actually, that I happened to kindly donate some money towards at a charity benefit. It was actually the Steve McMichael charity benefit that occurred at 115 Bourbon Street here on the south side of Chicago. It's signed by Davy Ross. It's actually signed right there on the cheek. It's kind of hard to see because it's in his beard. But it's a sick painting. And like I said, I donated very nicely to charity for it. But it's on the wall now, and that'll be the background when I'm doing Cubs on Tap. So that's kind of cool. So just wanted to point that out because I'm a child and it's like, oh, look at my new toy.
I love it, dude. I said that when you got it. I absolutely think it's that's a one of a kind piece, and that's
absolutely.
And that's just like I don't want to one up you, but my one of the kind piece that I got signed the other night at Four Winds Field, which I'm gonna have that in a plaque and framed real soon. I don't know if anybody on the Twitter app was following, but I have a 20 strikeout game ticket from my dad that was signed by Kerry Wood last week, Wednesday. Yeah. I went to the game and got him. I was the last one to get a signature at Four Winds Field. He called signing after an hour. I was the last one. There were still 100 people in line behind me. He signed for kids after that, which I, tip of the cap to Kerry there. But I was lucky to get that signature. I waited in a 2-hour line. It was 2 hours.
Damn.
Yeah.
But that is, like you said, that is a one of one type thing where, the game ticket from his 20 strikeout game to have his autograph on it is pretty cool. And certainly something to treasure, right? That's a piece of memorabilia that you can certainly treasure.
But Ron, I'll tell you that piece, hand painted, that is impressive as hell.
It's a beauty.
You should see. If I tried to do that, it would be stick people with a C on the top of a circle-looking hat. Look more like a helmet.
I'm right there with you, man. I can't draw for shit, so I'm absolutely right there with you, dude. An incredible piece. But so it'll be a cool looking backdrop now for Cubs on Tap as well. And
also me, I stepped it up a little bit.
Hey,
I always had the.
Yeah, we like your backdrop now, Juice. It's.
I always had the very plain prisoner insane asylum background for so long, but now I figured anymore. I should put up some of my merch.
There you go. Hey, it's always good to have a good background, right? And nonetheless, we always have fun here at Cubs on Tap. But Juice, let's look ahead a little bit to this Cincinnati series because Cubs are back at Wrigley Field. It is September now, so we're back to a nice 6:40 local time start instead of the old 7:10. So a little 30 minutes we get back at the end of the evening is kind of nice. But we will start with Tuesday's game. We already looked. Wednesday and Thursday starters are technically, as of now, TBD. Again, we're hoping one of those is Steele. I think that's a very safe assumption to hope. But we do know, however, Juice, who is starting on Tuesday, and we'll get to that here just in a second. But the games will be 6:40, and then it's a 1:20 start on Thursday with it being getaway day before the Cubs welcome the Giants to town for a 3:05, actually, start on Friday, which is very interesting, followed up by a good old 1:20 on Saturday, and then there's Sunday Night Baseball on September 11th, that Sunday. So we'll get Bears football action during the day and Cubs baseball action in the evening. So it's a good little Chicago doubleheader, if you ask me. But on Tuesday, the Cubs and Reds do battle, as we mentioned, at Wrigley Field on September 6th. As I mentioned, it is a 6:40 start. If you are somehow in the Cincinnati market, you listen to us here at Cubs on Tap. First off, hey, thanks for listening. Second off, you can listen to this game on WLW 700 or watch on Bally Sports Ohio. And if you're in the Chicagoland market, you know the drill. 670 The Score, WRTO 1200, and Marquee Sports Network are where you can catch this one. On the bump for the Reds, it is right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn. He is 1-2 on the year with a 4.63 ERA, just 19 Ks. So without looking into his profile, I'm sure he has not pitched much this season. But on the bump for the Cubbies is a name that we haven't seen for a while that I think we're all pretty excited to see again. It is big left-hander Wade Miley. The big left-hander has a 2.84 ERA. He's been really good, but only limited to 4 starts thus far this season. So it will certainly be interesting to see what happens there and how he looks. But I'll tell you what, as quickly as he works, Tuesday night's game might be over by like 8 o'clock. So I'm pretty excited about that because Wade Miley, again, you mentioned too a little bit earlier, Juice, and then I want to give you the floor. But You mentioned Drew Smyly, right? And the potential of him coming back as a Cub next season. And this is kind of important for him to continue to put good starts together. I'd argue Wade Miley's in the exact same boat. A guy that really could be competing with a guy like Drew Smyly for kind of that 5th spot next season if they were to bring him back. If he has a really good stretch here, again, limited to 4 starts, but in those 4 starts, he's been really good. So I'm pretty excited for Tuesday. But Juice, I'll turn the floor over to you, my friend. Thoughts for Tuesday's game, thoughts for the series as a whole, and then we'll also get some Fly the W picks here too before we get done.
Yeah, for the series as a whole, I think just go in there trying to play good baseball. Go in, end the season. I think this is where, if you're a Cub fan, you're really rooting for them to end playing their best ball. That way they can build on something going into the offseason, have some late success. Obviously, the schedule warrants for that. You said, they're going to play the Reds a lot. They're going to play, the Pittsburgh Pirates for a series. You said the Giants are coming into town. Talk about a lot of baseball teams that aren't towards the top of their divisions. It's winnable games. So if you're a Cub, lace them up and try to gain some momentum to the offseason. Finish strong. It'd be really nice to see them rattle off a nice winning streak, here and there, win a couple in a row and then start again and carry that momentum to just put even more pressure on, Jed and company and obviously the Rickett family to invest more into these guys, to put, to get them some help, some reinforcements. But for Tuesday's game, I actually was at Wade Miley's rehab start. That was on Wednesday last week. He got, I don't want to say he got hit around, but he had some unfortunate luck in there, sprinkled in there as well. But didn't look as crisp. I don't want to say that that's what we're going to get going into, this week series or, this Tuesday game, but he looked like he was trying to come back and pitch at the end of the season here, which I totally understand. But he wasn't the crispest against those hitters that night in South Bend. But still has the stuff. It was kind of interesting to watch, all these guys who are fringe prospects, they're everyday guys, or, that random bullpen arm that isn't in the top prospect names for the Cubs farm, but is there. They're there, and they were all kind of surrounded by Miley while he took his warm-up tosses down the line, and watching him a lot and trying to take in a lot of, what he was doing and asking him questions. So I'll say that he was definitely doing a good job of kind of coaching up these prospects, telling them what, the MLB is like for the guys who haven't had a chance to taste it yet. And, but his stuff just wasn't as crisp as I think as he wanted it. Now, going into that, rehab start, I think they pretty much just wanted to get him some time on the bump, all things considered, and how long it's been since, he had done that. And maybe that's just what they got out of it. But going into the Cubs better bring these bats on Tuesday. You don't know what you're getting out of him after that long of a layoff. So, I think if I'm going to fly the W pick for this one, I'll just rope it all into one here. I'm going to go with Ian Happ. I think Ian Happ is a pretty safe bet going into this series. He's been fantastic this year, and he loves Cincinnati pitching. So
that he does. That he does.
That'll be my fly the W for the week. But that's what I saw out of Miley, and that's what I'm expecting for this series. Just end strong, win this series, start winning series throughout the rest of the year here, and then we'll go into the offseason. We'll all get healthy again and get some rest. And I know for sure that there'll be some names and some fun conversations we have going into the baseball winter meetings, and that'll be interesting for us to sit and talk about. There'll be plenty of episodes, plenty of content through here. We'll have some of the Cubs actually on this show to recap their seasons, and some future Cubs hopefully will be stopping in and going over their offseason plan and just telling us what they're doing while there is no baseball. But enjoy it while you can. This is the one thing too for if you're a Cub fan. In a month from now, there won't be Cub baseball, so enjoy it. Enjoy what we got left, because it'll be December, late December, early January when we're like, man, I could really go for 120 at Wrigley right now. So
absolutely,
regardless of the product, enjoy it, take it in, and just try to watch the rest of these and watch with the rose-colored glasses of it's going to be a tough one. It's tough to watch this team. But like I said, there's some good things to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly well said, Juice. And I don't have too much to add, but just a couple of little tidbits. You mentioned, right, playing your best ball down the stretch here. And here's who the Cubs play the rest of the season. Really only 2 teams on their schedule the rest of the way that I look. And I'm like, they might have some trouble with said team. But first off, obviously, we've got 3 with the Reds coming up here, and then we mentioned the 3 with the Giants. Then they go to New York. They play the Mets. Obviously, they're still battling for that NL East title. They are only a game now above the Atlanta Braves, who have been very hot.
So, Braves never lose.
Yeah, the Braves are on their tail. But following that, you got 3 against the Rockies at Wrigley. Now, then you got 3 down in South Florida against the Marlins, 4 on the road against Pittsburgh for that last series of the season. And then you're back home for 3 against the Phillies, 3 more against the Reds at home. And then you go to Cincy for 3 as well. And 2 of those 3 are technically rescheduled games from the beginning of the year against the Reds. So they just kind of lumped that into a 3-game series really to close this thing out now with the delay in the season and stuff like that. So again, you said it, Juice, right? Overall, a very favorable schedule that the Cubs could play really good ball down the stretch and take that momentum into the offseason. And it all starts tomorrow. I'm also looking forward to seeing what Miley has. Again, a guy who, when healthy, has shown he is a very capable pitcher. But like you said, what kind of health is he in right now? And is this him really just trying to make a tryout to either A, remain with the Cubs in the next season, or B, just at least get on somebody's radar going into the offseason and be able to continue pitching in the major leagues? I like Miley. I just wish he was so much more healthy this year. I think no shot at Drew Smyly. I think he could have had a better season than Drew Smyly overall. Just health has obviously kept him off the field at this point. Quick comment here, too, from Scott that I think is interesting in the comments. He says, Assad on Wednesday, ? Hot take, because I was doing some research, and I'm really bad at knowing this all for certain, but Miley got moved to the 60-day IL when they recalled Jeremiah Estrada in September, and they added him to the 40-man. Because of that, I think Estrada took Miley's 40-man spot. So, either A, Assad gets sent down, but he is on the 40-man, so I don't know how that would impact that, if they would have to DFA him. Or I think there's going to be a designated for assignment move when Miley is officially activated tomorrow. I'm not sitting here because I admittedly am not for sure, but I think Miley's activation is going to cost somebody a roster spot. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be Assad, because I think Assad has pitched really well. But maybe we do see Assad in the series. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we absolutely could see him. I just don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he does stay on the 40-man, but is returned to Iowa, just to continue pitching and be a regular part of the rotation, because I don't think they're going to want to go 6 men down the stretch here, especially if you're going to get Thompson back, and Steele is going to rejoin the rotation as well, and Sampson's been good enough where I think they're going to let him continue to start, and there's a lot of what ifs, so it'll be really interesting to see there. But I'm right there with you, man. Hopefully we see enough out of Miley. The bats need to show up really out, just that whole Cardinal series in general. I think that was the one thing I would say. I was like, You scored 4 runs the whole 3 games, and all of them came in one game. So, no hitting. So would certainly like to see that. And, for my fly of the W, Juice, I'm going to go with a guy. I'm going to pick him because I'm hoping he turns it around. This is a guy now and down the stretch here in September that I want to see just a little bit. Give me just a little bit of a tickled ball tease that he's going to be good. And that's Seiya Suzuki. I need a little bit more out of Seiya down the stretch here. I'm not saying he needs to come out. Yeah, I'm not saying he needs to come out and hit 400 down the stretch here, but give me 295 down the stretch. I think that's reasonable from a guy who knows the strike zone as well as he does. Show Cubs fans what they can look forward to next season, because I do think he's going to be a very good major league player. Is he going to be a star? I don't know, but I think he's at least at minimum going to be a very good major leaguer. And I just want to see a little bit of that, right? Like you just talked about, Juice. We want to see this growth down the stretch here from some of these guys. a lot of youth, right? We want to see growth from guys like Morel and continued success from guys like Reyes and Hap and et cetera, et cetera. But like, I really want to see Seiya do some stuff here because I think, again, a guy that is, in my opinion, very critical to them competing next season is Seiya needing to be, again, you look at the roster, there's only one player that makes more money, not including Jason Hayward, on the roster that makes more money than Seiya Suzuki, and that's Marcus Stroman. Seiya's getting $17 million a year. So again, I'm not saying he needs to go out there and be a world beater and hit 400 and hit a home run every 2 games. I just want to see his comfort level get better as September rolls on.
Put some at bats together.
Yeah. Just take that momentum with you into the offseason and build on it. So that's what I want to see. So that's why we'll take him as the fly to debut with just that intention of like, if he has a really good series against the Reds here the next 3 days, like I'm going to feel a little better. I'll be like, okay, now do it again, right? Like do it against San Francisco, do it against New York, do it against, the Rockies. And they have a couple off days baked in here as well. You have the off day on the 1st. You have the off day today. You have an off day a week from Thursday on the 15th. And then you have an off day on the 26th. And then you're done with the season after October? I think October 6th is their last game. So that's pretty much it. I mean, you got 4 off days after not having many of them over the last 2 months. You have 4 off days for this team. Take advantage of it, put some shit together. And not a ton of crazy traveling, right? They don't go out to the West Coast. The longest trip they have from here on out, I think, is probably to see the Marlins in South Florida. That's about it. Otherwise, you got, you're not going out west. The Rockies are coming here. The Giants are coming here. The Reds are coming here. Philly's coming here. I mean, you go to Pittsburgh once. But that's about it. So, let's get some Seiya and some stuff involved as well. And Juice, before all the pleasantries here at the end, I do want to remind everybody we have a new logo. It's official. We haven't had a show since the new logo was officially debuted, but we do have a new logo, a new look. Again, same great coverage from us here at On Tap. Hopefully, it means better coverage for all of our great listeners here at On Tap as well. But Cubs on Tap has a new look, a little bit more to our roots with the tap handle and stuff like that. Friend of the program, Dave, did a great job on designing that. So we certainly want to thank him for doing that. It took a little longer than we wanted to debut it. It was supposed to happen at the All-Star break. I'll admit that one, but it worked out. We timed it up with the SI launch, and it felt appropriate when we did it here in September. So new look, but again, still the same great clown coverage that you get from us here at Cubs on Tap. We're gonna have fun, but bring you good baseball analysis all at the same time. But Juice, as always, I want to remind everybody Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow all the pod-specific accounts for us here at Cubs on Tap. We're at Cubbies on Tap. That's CUBBIES on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Luce on Tap on the Bluebird app. Juice is at Juice on Tap on the Bluebird app. Luce on Tap, Juice on Tap, Luce on Tap, Juice on Tap. If you know, you know. Follow all of our other great co-hosts as well at Joey Knows Nothing, at Teddy Freddy 270, our buddy Tyler Edmonds, as well as all our other great contributors at Brandon M. Kane and at Bulls Guy Rob on Twitter. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. We got it all. Bears first game of the season is this week. Very exciting. Juice, you'll be there at Soldier Field on Sunday. I'll be watching it from the comforts of the south side of Chicago, but we'll certainly be chiming in, I'm sure, on Twitter and whatnot. Not sure if I'll be able to make the Bears on Tap show this week, but we'll definitely. I've already got my calendar marked for that Green Bay series or that Green Bay game in week 2. I'll be on that show yelling and screaming.
Damn right,
Rodgers, I'm sure. But again, be sure to follow along with Bears on Tap and with Brandon and Quentin as they do a great job over there. And again, Bulls and Blackhawks are right around the corner too, Juice. We're talking about, baseball being gone and fall sports being around the corner. They're coming. They're coming really, really soon. So make sure you're following along with all of our great coverage here.
That's what
at On Tap Sportsnet. Yes, it is. And as well, hey, they're in a division race, even though they're like 500. But Cubs fans, you all got friends that like the Southsiders. Go send them to our buddies at Sox on Tap. They do a great job covering the boys at 35th and Shield. So once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Juice, my friend, it is always a pleasure. 3 with the Reds coming up before 3 with the Giants over the weekend. We will have shows Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I can't tell you who's going to be on what. We will figure that out as we always do here at Cubs on Tap. But my friend, Always a pleasure, dude. And what do you say? We get out of here the only way we know, especially after our last series with the Cardinals for the season.
FTC, Ronald. FTC.
FTC indeed. And let's go Cubbies.